trivia. And our question pertains to two of the greatest of all time, Rocky Marciano and then Cassius Clay, who's the only boxer to face both these men. Sean, can we rule you out on this one?
You bet. It wasn't me.
All right, we'll rule out Mitch Green also. The answer, Archie Moore. He won the light heavyweight title at the age of 39. Then in 1955, he was stopped in the 9th by Marciano at the age of 41. At the age of 48, Clay stopped him in the 4th round. Now here's Archie with the great Joe Louis and a young George Foreman, all eventually fighting late in life. Moore fought until the age of 49. He's the perfect man to act as an advisor for George Foreman. Earlier today, Sean talked with the now 75-year-old Archie Moore, and they talked about Foreman's comeback.
Well, John, I'm with George Foreman at this time, and in hopes that we can get him in the proper condition that he can continue winning and become once again the undisputed heavyweight champion of the world.
How does a fighter come back after a long layoff, like a 10-year retirement for George?
Well, I would say that George Foreman, you know, boxing will only demand from you what you put into it. And George put a lot into boxing, but George had a lot more that he did not, that boxing did not take from him. So therefore, when he comes back with his tank full of gas again, you know, and he's ready to go again and roll on a few more miles. And I believe that George is of the fighter, of the caliber and of the power that he can take Tyson or anybody else in boxing. He is the hardest puncher that's fighting today.
He has an enormous amount of respect for you, as do I. What is it that you tell him? What does he ask you? What do you talk about?
Well, I suppose I know how to encourage you, guy. I know his good points. I know how to make him use them. I know when to use them, you see, and that's what he gets me for.
What makes a fighter successful after he's trying to come back like George is?
What makes a fighter successful is the things that he didn't accomplish when he was on top, and that he has now thought them over real well and has made plans to go back into this, into the things that he dreamed about when he was coming up. And I think that George Foreman is not only...
George Foreman, his 11th fight since coming back after a 10-year layoff, and he's going for his 11th straight knockout. Tonight steps in against this young man, the former Mexican heavyweight champion, Ladislao Mijangos. Looks a little like Pete Rose. And here comes the former champ, George Foreman. Certainly a curiosity. At the age of 39, he'll be 40 in January.
And he can still command a crowd. These people are on their feet here at the Lee County Civic Center to see this man fight tonight. At the hotel, he was so good with people. The kids love him. He likes people. He's a people man. And he says, now I'm here for the people.
Well, we saw George Foreman at the end of June, and he delivered one of USA's highest boxing ratings, and the people around the country still curious about the former champion. These two fighters sized one another up before tonight's fight.
Bueno, la pelea es Foreman, pero que un martillo le hace.
Got to grab it with a nail to be able to nail it.
Mijangos, I don't know too much about him. I know that he's going to be smaller than me, which is going to make a smaller target, sort of a Mike Tyson, stooping way down. So I'm going to try to find punches to find him down there.
George Foreman at the age of 39. He says he wants a fight with somebody in the top 10. People in the top 10 say they want to fight George Foreman, but nothing's happening. So he keeps on getting in the ring. And tonight it's with one Ladislao Mijangos of Mexico. Let's take a look at the tail of the tape. The differences. 6'3", 255 and a quarter. George Foreman would not allow us to measure the reach, but you can be sure it's longer than 71 inches to Mijangos, who is just 6'1.5", an overblown light heavyweight at 206.
But he has fought as a heavyweight. He's never fought less than that except in the amateurs.
He has beaten Leon Spinks for whatever that is worth. That was 9 months ago, a faded Leon Spinks. But also at the other end of the ledger, he has lost to a guy by the name of Yaki Meneses, who was once an opponent and a loser to Ed Too Tall Jones. Foreman with some moments to himself. And now for the introductions, here's Dallas Page.
Gentlemen, super fights. Jerry Cooney, Dennis Rappaport, Rick Parker, Challenger Promotions would now like to bring you the main event. This bout scheduled for 10 rounds in the heavyweight division. First, your referee from Tampa, Florida, Brian Gary. And introducing the principals. First in the red corner, wearing blue trunks with white trim, weighing in at 206 pounds, from Mexico City, Mexico, with a professional record of 24 wins, 4 losses, 20 knockouts, the former Mexican heavyweight champion, Ladislao Mijangos. His opponent in the blue corner, wearing red trunks, weighing in at 255 pounds in one corner, from Humboldt, Texas, with 55 wins, 2 defeats, and 52 knockouts. Welcome now the former Olympic and heavyweight champion of the world, Mr. George Foreman.
Does it look a little more like a 2-inch difference in height?
And look at Foreman towering over Mijangos. And also that psychological factor, looking down over your opponent. For Mijangos, he's got to look up to Foreman.
Now keep in mind, last time we saw Foreman against Carlos Hernandez, who is probably the best opponent he has faced in the 10 since coming back, Foreman was tagged in the first round and shaken. He can get tagged early. He was never known as a fast fighter, but devastating puncher, just lumbering. Mijangos will have to move, but Foreman looking to cut off the ring.
Now Mijangos has got a little bit of power in that left hook.
He has 20 knockouts and 24 wins.
Right, and the way that Foreman
shakes Mijangos. Just a jab, that's what he was doing to Hernandez.
Bring it up, bring it up, bring it up.
The one thing Foreman still has is the punch. Remember last time we saw him, guys like Frank Bruno were there, Caitlin Thomas, Razor Reddick, and they were impressed with the punching power of Foreman.
He's got that punch and he's got that strength. Very strong upper body strength. Also terrific balance George Foreman has.
He's up a little higher than the last fight. He's weighed in today 255 and a quarter.
But he is repositioning that weight. Much of that weight is in his upper body. Oh, big jab. One of the prettiest left jabs in boxing. George Foreman puts his weight behind that left jab, pushes off with that back foot.
He started the comeback a year ago, March, at 325 pounds. He has never been in the ring against a guy that would threaten him in this comeback. He's been criticized because he wants a shot against Mike Tyson, but will not fight anybody in the top 10. He says he will. Some top 10 fighters say they would fight Foreman, but nothing has happened. Little combination there by Mijangos.
Don't punch him in the back now. Blake, step out of there.
Referee Brian Gary warning Foreman not to punch Mijangos in the back. Foreman did it earlier in this round. Kidney punch.
Foreman just plotting, setting this man up. Mijangos will have to move more than he has so far.
Step back.
Every punch by Foreman is a home run.
Don't push him, George. Get off his head now. Come on. Get off his head. All right, gentlemen, I got you.
And Foreman just flicking that right away. There goes a fly. Foreman, in his fights in the comeback, has looked almost disinterested, bored, going through the motions. Man playing with boys. But he has certainly shown the punch. It's the question when he goes to a top 10 fighter, or even in thinking in terms of Tyson, of the other fighter just getting in those shots against Foreman. There's Mijangos is down. Closing seconds. He cannot be saved by the bell. Was it behind the back?
That is what Mijangos is complaining about. A kidney punch. That's the second time he's been hit there in that first round. Referee Brian Gary visiting the corner of George Foreman, telling him to watch those kidney punches. Archie Moore in that corner. Here's a look at that kidney punch. Foreman, boom. Now in Foreman's defense, the way that Mijangos fights, he stands to his side. See how Mijangos, he's standing to the side. His feet are not parallel to, but they are parallel to Foreman's feet.
Archie Moore, at the age of 75. He fought until he was 49 years of age. And what a perfect man to have in the corner of George Foreman, who is now nearing his 40th birthday.
Foreman stood up between rounds with his foot on the stool. This looks to be nothing more than a workout for George Foreman. Foreman complete control of this fight.
The basic questions about Foreman's comeback: his age at around 40, the inactivity, he was out for 10 years, and also the quality of his opponents. And that is the big question right now. If Foreman wants a shot at the championship, he has to step up his opponents. I talked yesterday with our former colleague Randy Gordon, who is now the New York State boxing commissioner. I asked him, would he sanction a Foreman-Tyson fight? And he said, well, Foreman would have to pass the physical. He probably could do that. Then it was a judgment, and Randy felt it'd be no contest, not competitive enough. He would not sanction it until Foreman proved himself against top 10 fighters. And that's just one commissioner of one state.
And that is very difficult to do, because all the top 10 fighters obviously want to get to that top 10 because they want to fight for the championship. If you're not in the top 10, you can't fight for the title. Mijangos taking some heavy shots. This fight is only a matter of time.
Halfway through round number 2, it is scheduled for 10. And keep in mind, George Foreman in his career in 57 fights has gone the distance just 4 times. Last time, 1977, 11 years ago.
Now the mat is loosening up terribly. These fighters slipping around a bit on the mat. Oh.
The mat is, it's 18.5 feet.
Low blow by Foreman, and Brian Gary warns him to keep punches up.
This is certainly a mat to the advantage of Foreman, a smaller mat. Matter of fact, I wonder if they even watered it down for him before the fight. He has had no complaints, though, Sean, about the loose canvas. That may be more dangerous to his comeback than Ladislao Mijangos.
Mijangos not really dangerous. Foreman moves ahead forward with his hands down. Look where his hands are. How can you have a defense when your hands are way down there by your sides? Now, no question, one of the hardest hitters. Look at that.
Dazed Mijangos waved off by Brian Gary. The Night Stalker moved in. 2 punches ended it. And George Foreman is now 11 for 11 in his comeback bid, hearing the jeers from the crowd. They didn't feel the fight should have been stopped.